Hi, this is Randall here in Texas.
And I'm Matt here in Michigan. Today, Randall and I are taking a look at the new live action movie from Disney, Mulan. It's based on the Disney animated classic and stars Ify Liu, Donnie Yen, Li Gong, Jet Li, Jason Scott Lee, Tai Ma, and Janssen An. It's directed by Nikki Caro, who also directed The Zookeeper's Wife, North Country, and Whale Rider.
This movie follows the general script that was laid out in the original animated film. China is under attack from some northern invaders, and the emperor puts out a call for one man from every family to defend China. The main character, Mulan, puts herself in place of impersonating a male soldier so that way she can save her father. Had a $200 million budget and has received generally positive reviews from critics, most of them praising the filmmaking and all of the visuals of this movie. So, Matt, what do you think of the remake of Mulan?
I generally like this film. I think this movie is full of color. It has good acting in it. I enjoyed it. A lot of these Disney remakes are like shot for shot remakes of the animated classics, and I'm like, I'd rather just watch the animated version. But this isn't. This adds a little bit more. It changes it a little bit to make this a new film that I think gives it worth a watch. But I think in the end, I do prefer the animated version.
Well, I'm gonna be a grumpy old man. I'm sorry.
Morning, dickhead.
Hello, moron.
I honestly did not like this movie that much. I didn't think that the changes that they put in place, and there are quite a few of them, were really beneficial to it. So they take away things like Mushu, which is no big secret. It's not like that's a huge spoiler. They let people know that. They took away all the musical numbers, so there's no musical numbers in this. It's a straight live action film. I found watching this personally pretty boring, and a lot of the charm of the original animated film was lost in the making of this film. I didn't look at it and think, oh, yeah, this is a $200 million movie. It wasn't until after I watched it where I was like, you're kidding me. This is supposed to be $200 million. I thought, hey, it looks fine. But I was pretty much disappointed is for what it is, even though I'm pleased that they went a different direction than just a shot for shot remake. I didn't necessarily want that because I haven't liked any of their remakes. Maybe it just falls down to stop remaking your animated classics because they don't need to be.
Maybe. I can agree with you about the $200 million part a little bit. When I first watched like the first scenes and stuff, it's kind of like, yeah, this doesn't feel like a big budget movie. But I was talking to one of our friends, and he was kind of pointing out, well, maybe it's the lighting that makes you feel that way. And I guess I could kind of see it. To me, it was almost like, yeah, this looks like a movie that was made for streaming service something as opposed to the big theaters.
This almost looks like a Technicolor movie, honestly. Like, it is bright and beautiful, and they want you to see all of the colors. But I thought, man, it just like it doesn't have that much of a visual flair to it. When I watched it, I'm like, it looks fine, not great, just fine.
There's some shots I really liked. One shot is right before Mulan enters the army camp. Is basically she kind of hasn't found her way yet, and there's a good scene where she's in almost like a canyon, and they show like the background, and it's like a good focus on her, and she brings like the color to the shot and stuff. So there's shots like that I enjoy. But like you said, there's been lots of talk about what isn't in this film that was in the anime version, especially you're talking about the songs. We do get hints of those songs in different parts. They kind of play like a little part of it while they're doing the same thing that they did like in the animated version. But there's one scene in particular in the middle that I did not like where they took a song and completely turned it into a dialogue part. To me, it just felt awkward, out of place. And even though it's trying to be a nod to the animated version, I don't think that worked. But for the most part, to me, that was really the only scene that I didn't enjoy in this film.
I wish I had your genuine optimism about this movie, but I just don't. The first half of this film, for me, felt like it leaned very heavily on the nostalgia and like not telling its own story. You just have to know a lot about the original film, and I don't know too many people that haven't seen the original, so maybe I'm just off base with that. But it felt to me like, hey, I know this and this is familiar to me because I've watched the original. I know what's going on. Case in point, in in the plot of this, it's said that Mulan's doing this out of love for her father, and in the original animated film, I can see that because after her disaster at the matchmaker, he's the first to come comfort her. He's the first to come feel, be compassionate to her and say, sometimes the flower that blooms the latest is the most beautiful. In this, I don't get that feeling of like love and compassion between them. I just know it's there because I'm told it's there and I know it's there from the original movie. After her disaster with the matchmaker in this film, her father's not compassionate and he doesn't come to her defense. He basically tells her that she has dishonored the family and that this is you've got to stop doing, stop being yourself basically. Uh, so I'm like, no, she's not going off to save her dad because she loves him or anything, except for I'm told that that's what it is.
I kind of like with the animated one when Mulan she goes to the army camp and she doesn't know about fighting and stuff, and it kind of takes the approach that she learns different things and she adds a different spin. Part for being female, she looks at things a little bit differently than the male soldiers do, and they're allowed to let that grow in the animated version. This one I think kind of takes a different approach. This movie I think is more about Mulan being true to herself. You kind of hinted at there's a part of her that she basically is keeping away from the world. In this movie, she's got to rekindle that part of herself, her persona. She's got to fully commit to being who she is. So definitely a different take on this. Disney points out at the beginning of this movie, the narrator basically says, you probably heard the story of Mulan. There's many stories of Mulan, but this is my take on the story. So they're telling you right off the bat that this is not going to be the same as the animated movie.
They go through great pains to say that we're not telling the same story. It's kind of like the fact that this is a myth means that there is always a different interpretation to this story, as if that's going to stop the comparisons to the original that it's based on, and that the original is actually based on a Chinese folklore, very very loosely, but it is. To me, almost all of the changes that they made didn't make enough sense for me. One of the biggest things, though, that really bothers me is that almost all of these characters are devoid of any depth. They're very surface level. Mulan's got a bit of depth to her as the main character, and you can see her kind of struggling with the fact that she's lying about who she is, which is kind of one of the key points of the film. But every other character is just there to fill a spot. To me, that's just not good filmmaking. That's not a good script. That's pretty lazy. I just don't like that kind of movie, I guess, very often.
There's one character I think that has some depth and it is actually an addition to this film, and that's Li Gong's character, who's one of the villains. She's the witch in this one, and I think she's actually better than the Khan in this film and in the animated version. I think she has a little bit more depth. There's a little bit more to her, even though I think her story kind of turns into another famous villain. But you guys will have to check that out and see if you can tell which one I'm referring to.
Oh, come on!
Generally, I agree. I think a lot of the characters are kind of surface level kind of thing, but I think with Li Gong and Mulan for a second, I think they have a bit of depth to them.
There is one scene that I do want to give a lot of praise to, and it's a very short scene. It's at the end, but you all know how the story ends, so it's not really a spoiler in this sense. Mulan is presented to the Emperor after her heroic acts, very much similar to the original, and the original voice actor, Ming-Na Wen, does the introduction to the Emperor. She goes,
Your Imperial Highness, Hua Mulan.
like, okay, that was a cool cameo in this film where the original voice actress comes back and actually introduces this new Mulan. It was a blink and you miss it scene, but it was actually one of my favorite scenes in the whole film, where I was like, wow, I didn't know she was even in this because it's uncredited.
I'm glad you said that. I did not know that. That's definitely interesting. There's other things that if you're not paying close attention, you might miss. Like one of the characters, like Cricket in the movie, they reference in this, but you might not notice that's the reference unless you're like listening for it. So be sure to look out for that for Cricket. But like I said, yeah, no Mushu in this one, which is a bit disappointing. There's actually one line too when someone's going off and talking about like almost like dishonor on you and stuff, and all I could think of was Eddie Murphy.
All right, that's it. Dishonor. Dishonor on your whole family. Make a note of this. Dishonor on you. Dishonor on your cow.
Yeah, it was almost like we had to get this line in, and we had to get this line in, and oh, we gotta, don't forget to get this line in, just to, Easter egg it up enough. Easter eggs do not a good movie make, in my opinion, though, so.
Yeah, generally I would say I enjoyed this movie, though I prefer the anime version, especially with that Disney Plus price of $30 on top of the subscription. Unless you're like a large family and you really got to see this movie now, I would actually recommend that you wait until it's free on Disney Plus. You're already paying for the Disney Plus subscription. But then again, that's easy for me to say because I watched the film. I'm not like, oh, I need to see this film kind of thing. So that's easy for me to say that.
Yeah, well, you know what? Out now, I'm just going to disagree. I would say just skip this film.
They have failed to raise a good daughter.
At the end of it, I sat there and I was like, this isn't that good. I'm not quite sure what the critics are on about, honestly. I think that the people who are reviewing it, the normal audience scores for like Rotten Tomatoes in this case is like around 55, 50 something. I think that's much more accurate. It's very hit and miss for me.
It'll be interesting to see what you guys think about Mulan. If you've seen it, let us know. And if you haven't yet, are you going to watch it right away or are you going to wait for it later on Disney Plus? Let us know in the comments below. If you like a review, be sure to give us a thumbs up. Also, be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notifications of when our next videos come out. We also have a Facebook page, so be sure to check it out. We will post a day before our videos come out to let you know what the next topic is going to be. For now, I'm Matt here in Michigan. Have a good day.
And I'm Randall here in Texas. I'll see everyone later.
Next time on No Market Media. Please consider checking out some of our other videos.